and welcome to the BFI London Film Festival's Industry Programme. My name's Rowan Woods and I'm the festival's Industry Programmer. Thank you for joining us in this unusual format in this most unusual year. This is the second of our flagship Spotlight conversations in this year's Industry Programme. These sessions, as you know, we hear from notable executives, creatives or companies operating in the international arena and talk about their work and get their perspective on where the industry is at this moment of upheaval and change. We're absolutely delighted to be joined by Ava DuVernay and her team at Array to talk about the radical work they've been doing across different sectors of the industry to support and amplify the work of women and people of colour. This session will be moderated by writer, broadcaster and creative director of The Space to Come, a familiar face to many, Gayleen Gould.
Thanks, Rowan, and it's great to be here and really wonderful to see almost the entire team of Array, not quite, but all of the heads of the divisions. Because this could be no better year to speak to Ava DuVernay and the expanded Array team, given the media's troubled relationship to social justice has never been more acute. Also, the handbrake stop that the global pandemic has thrown on the industry is further enforcing new models of making, watching, and engaging. On all of the above, Array ahead of the game. So we're going to have much to learn from this team. Founded in 2011 by filmmaker Ava DuVernay, Array is a multi-platform arts and social impact collective dedicated to narrative change. Over the past 10 years, Array has blazed a trail, challenging industry orthodoxy across distribution, production, exhibition, and through focused community activism. With a focus on narrative and documentary feature work by Black artists, people of colour, and women of all kinds, its film and television production arm, Array Filmworks slate, includes Peabody and Emmy award-winning limited series, When They See Us, Oscar-nominated criminal justice documentary 13th, and the groundbreaking TV series Queen Sugar. The organisation catalyses its work through a quartet of mission-driven entities: the film distribution arm Array Releasing, the content company Array Filmworks, the programming and production hub Array Creative Campus, and the non-profit group Array Alliance. And these are the heads of those divisions that we've got with us today. So we're going to welcome filmmaker and Array founder, Ava DuVernay, who will be joined by Array president, Telaine Jones, Array director of programming, Mercedes Cooper, Array Alliance executive director, Regina Miller, Array Filmworks president, Sarah Bremner, and Array Filmworks head of physical production, Paul Garnes. So thank you guys for coming, and Paul for coming off set to join us today. It's really, really great to have you all. So Ava, it's great to see you again. And also it's really great to see how Array has expanded. Array's expanded over the years. And I'm interested, was this always the plan? Did you always see this? Or have you been surprised with the way the company has evolved?
Well, I'm happy to be here with you and thanks for having us. We would much rather be in London with you. In person, but we'll do that another year. And so thank you for having us, and thank you for putting a spotlight on our work. Absolutely never thought that we'd have anything like this. The expansive vision that the organization has taken on has really been catalyzed by an authentic experience of moving through our industry as it's changing, through our world as it's changing. Everything that we're taking on is directly connected to what we're experiencing as women and people of color working in our industry. We come up against a roadblock or a system that we don't quite like, well, we say, let's disrupt it and do something different. We're trying to tell a story in a certain direction and there's a roadblock and it hasn't been done before. Okay, let's go through that wall and do it anyway. What you'll hear is even in the way that we do those things, we're constantly trying to iterate on the Array way, trying to define, how can we go about our work, not just do the work, but how can we go about the work in a way that changes the protocols and processes of how films and television are made out here. And for us, it's really applying a sense of, like I said, authenticity and mission to it. And so none of that was predetermined. It's come because we've seen needs that we have decided we can't wait on other people to fill our needs.
Yeah.
We've decided, instead of knocking on doors that are not open to us, or doors that don't even exist, that should exist, we'll create our own doors, our own rules, our own systems and structures, and try to create them in the likeness of more people.
I mean, this is what I think is fascinating about being a filmmaker founder of a company like this, because you're right, really what this has evolved around your own experience as a Black woman trying to make films, right? Trying to make content. So can you step us through this evolution of Array so that will kind of introduce us to the heads here? Like what came first, why, and then what happened next?
Yeah, Array really began, there were three of us. It was the three Black women that you see on the screen. It was Telaine Jones and Mercedes Cooper, both who started as my assistants in different ways and have moved up, not even up, moved out, have chosen their own paths based on their own interests. And with the two of them, you know, I've been able to hold hands with two dynamic individuals who have been with me through everything, and to see them blossom and grow, and in kind see our company blossom and grow. Don't get emotional thinking about the early days and the small office that the office was so small, Gayleen. I mean, we were all touching shoulders.
Wow.
We wouldn't have been able to be in that office in COVID. There was no 6 feet in between us, okay? We were basically sitting on each other's laps doing work, and late into the night, early in the morning, weekends, trying to distribute films, trying to make our own small films. The foundation upon which this version of Array lives and thrives is on, you know, sweat and love of Telaine Jones and Mercedes Cooper. So they were first. And Telaine Jones, my late father, who I miss so much, he'd get a kick out of this conversation, used to call her the General. And because I basically tell people Telaine Jones is my boss. And so I'll just say, ask the boss. And she'll say, I'm not the boss. And it's like, yeah, you pretty much are the boss. The buck stops with her as it relates to the overall company and everything that's coming out of it and everything that's coming in. She's the one that allows me to be able to have this company and step off and go make a movie, right? It's because Telaine is there. And then Mercedes Cooper, I remember when she came to the company, and she started in marketing and has innovated everything: our look, our style, our graphics, our digital audience, all of the vocabulary, the language around which we describe ourselves, the way that we represent ourselves, our identity on paper, and the visual identity that we have. All of that came from her, but she was brave enough to say, I want to do something else. I went to film school and I just love films, and maybe, can I program? And so when we had our new theater on our campus, we basically handed that to Mercedes, and she has quickly risen to be one of the premier film programmers of an actual dedicated cinema space in America, I think. And then from there, we started to work on our production arm, Array Filmworks. For a long time, we were called Forward Movement. And my colleague, Paul Garnes, I made my very first films with. I remember calling him and saying, hey, you know how to produce films. I've got $200,000 and I want to make a movie. You live in Atlanta, I live in LA. I know this isn't enough money to do it with, but can you come out here and help me make this movie? And he said, yeah, where will I stay? And I said, I didn't say I knew where you'd stay. I said, will you come and make the movie with me? And he's like, yeah, I guess I'll come figure it out. He came out. I don't even know where he stayed, Paul. I don't want to hear where you stayed. All I know is that he showed up every day. To this day, I don't know where he laid his head, because we couldn't spend the money to do it, but he produced the film Middle of Nowhere that eventually won Sundance and really started my filmmaking career in earnest, and led to Selma and led to everything else. And then in thinking about how to expand our work in film and television, we had to bring on someone who really knew the industry and who the industry respected. So I did my first poach. Do you have that term in the UK?
Yes, yes.
Does it mean the same thing, or does it mean what does it mean there?
Poach means to sort of find someone that you think is great and then take them for coffee, take them a thing, or drink, or schmooze.
This is the same. We're alike in this way. So I did this with this amazing executive that I knew at Netflix, who actually bought one of my projects, and we were working on something. And one of my agents said to me, you know, you're looking for this position, someone to fill this position as the president of Array Filmworks. Paul's always on set. You need someone who could just take the reins and lead the thing. So I was interviewing all these people, and the agent said, is there anyone you like you just like as a person? Like, yeah, I like one person, but she's at a fancy company, and you know, I'm not going to be able to get her. And the agent, who's a shark, Maha Dakil, said, let's poach her. Let's try. And then look at her. She's right there. Her name is Sarah Bremner. I used all the powers of my schmoozing, but really, I appealed to her sense of story, her sense of wanting to not just be an executive for films, but to be a maker. And so she's here now leading the Array Filmworks charge. And our baby, our little 2-year-old baby, she's just a toddler company. This is our nonprofit arm, Array Alliance. But this is our beating heart of Array. And there was only one person to head that up, this incredible woman named Regina Miller, who is the person who single-handedly illuminated a whole new world to us. All the social justice work that Tulane and I and Mercedes and I were doing on the side of our films, she had a real vision to bring that all together, to bring in partners who would help us with that vision and to make it cohesive. So when you described this earlier, it was hard fought to come up with a way to talk about what we do, because we make films, we distribute films, we exhibit films, and we also work towards narrative change in a bunch of other areas. But we've been able to say, all of this feels like Array. And that's because of the talent and time of these people here. So I'm so happy that they're all with me today.
But also what's great, you use the term disruption a lot, you know, and the idea when you came through and set up Array was about disrupting the way that things are normally done to allow you to do what you need to do in filmmakers like yourselves. But I think when, you know, you see the group like here before us on Zoom, I've really thought this concept of a disrupted studio, you know, it's almost like a new way, a new configuration and a new concept of what a studio can be for a kind of, you know, for a new era. So there's something very exciting about that organic growth into this. Tell us a little bit about, so these 10 years have been they've been very important for Array, but they've also been very important for the landscape. So this is the year in a way, you can't quite believe it, but you know, Netflix came through in this decade and changed in a way the concept of how we saw television, how we saw broadcasting on kind of a small screen. So tell us a bit about how that fed into your own kind of growth and the growth of Array, and how it may have disrupted that in some way.
Well, I feel fortunate that we are here in this time. You know, I have a lot of firsts around my name. First person, Black woman to do this, and that. It's not coming from any superior talent or intelligence. It's coming from, I was at the right place at the right time. This is the time, right? We're at a time where the democratization of cinema is upon us. That if you want to make a film, you do not have to do what Julie Dash and Uzan Palsi did, which they had to apply and ask and wait and try to pull together the resources. And then they had gatekeepers, and then they just decided we're going to do it independently. But they had to go through a process where it was so hard to even get film to shoot on, right? Mm-hmm. That's the idea that there were only a handful of places that were the gatekeepers to how your film would be shown, right? The distributors. The idea that where it will be shown, the exhibitors, is also locked. All of those things have been locked for generations before us. And what digital cameras did, which Paul taught me so much about, is unlocked the picture, the production process. What digital distribution did was unlock the ways in which the film could reach its audience. And what Netflix has done and other streamers is unlocked the delivery system and the very place where you watch it. And so now there are less barriers, substantially less barriers, and those have been in the last 10 years. And how fortunate are we that we were there, that we were there at that time. And that's the only reason why we've been able to build what we've been able to build, is because I feel like we were the right we were in the right place at the right time, and we had the determination to lean into these times. Even when folks said, oh, this is never going to work, this Netflix thing, don't put your films on that. They won't be taken seriously. You know what I mean? They're not in theaters. You're never going to get an Oscar. So, well, I'm not trying to get an Oscar. I'm trying to have people see the work, right? And if I don't have it go through Netflix, then no one outside of the United States will ever see my work because of this myth that Black content doesn't move anywhere. So if I have different objectives than you, my objective is to have the story be told and heard, then there are other routes to do that. And that goes to ideas of success and achievement. You know, everybody doesn't want the same things. For me, the Oscar is not the end all be all of my life. Far from it, right? It is telling the stories and making sure that they get to as many people as possible. And with Netflix and other partners, I mean, they're 200 plus countries. A Black woman filmmaker, 13th, that film has been seen in more countries than all of my previous work put together, including Selma, distributed by Paramount, God bless them, nice people, and Wrinkle in Time, distributed by Disney, lovely people. But it was not seen around the world from either of those studios, and Netflix did it. Don't get me on a Netflix conversation, because it's less about Netflix and it's more about the democratization of the delivery of our work to people. And that's a lot of what we work on at Array.
And talking about 13th, which in a way is kind of, it's a film that unlocked many things, I think, for audiences, just because many of us hadn't seen an interrogation of that system in such depth in our own homes, you know, and like you're saying, everywhere in the world. The conversation in London was rife when that film came out. So, and also, you know, rewatching it again at this time in this year, that this film that's been addressing the very same issues that have reared up in a really violent way this year, that really shows that real and present danger, you know, of racial inequalities. So I'm interested in what you think, what action or responsibility do you think the film and TV industry has to bring about better balance, you know, with regard to the questions, huge conversation around social justice right now? How is that? Yeah.
I don't think the industry has a responsibility to it at all. The industry exists to make money. It's the people that power the industry that need to hold themselves accountable for the power that they wield. I mean, you can change generational behavior. You can change the way we think about ourselves and other people if you're just thoughtful about how you make the money. You know what I mean? If you take 2 seconds to make sure that more people are in the room, take a little bit longer to look for the person to fill the position that doesn't look the same as you, or is not the person who's done it 90 times before. I mean, it doesn't take a lot to be better. And so is it a responsibility, something that folks should do? No. I don't look to any of these places to get it right, but I do demand that they, just be better. Like, don't be so mediocre, because this whole thing and the way we've been existing in this industry is mediocre, okay? It's a lot of white men who are just sliding by because they're not been challenged by more people, more ideas, more points of view. So it just all is just in the middle. Can't we be excellent? You know what I mean? Can't we push a little more? Can't we open up? What are we afraid of? That's the question. And so is it a responsibility? No. Is it a boost to your ego to still be excellent when you had competition? You know what I mean? Like, if you had proper competition, would as many of the people who are in power be empowered? It was a true competitive landscape where everyone was able to participate for that job, for that head of studio, for that director's chair, for that whatever it is, right? Not sure. And so I think we see that play out writ large in politics, certainly in culture, and certainly in our industry. And I would never ask those people, feel responsible to do the right thing. I would say, God, feel responsible to yourself to just pursue excellence. And the way to do that is to open up. So You know, and a big part of Array is not looking for other people to do it. Basically say, this is what we're doing. We can help you do what we are doing. You'll hear a little bit about Array Crew, which is a part of our ethos and how we crew up. And it's a platform that we put together to help other people get there. But it's not a demand, because, hey, if you want to be that way, go ahead. We're going to be over here being great. So.
Brilliant. Selene, let's come to you. Actually, it's so wonderful to hear your. I've just got the picture of the three of you in the tiny room, like beavering away.
Shoulder,
Yeah,
shoulder to shoulder.
Yeah, it's a beautiful, beautiful image. So yeah, I'd love to hear about your perspective on all of this, given how you walking this walk, taking this path with Array over the last 10 years, and how you see these disruptive changes to the sector. So let's specifically around distribution and the releasing side of things, which you've really been leading on. How do you see that? How do you see the changes in the distribution landscape? Because there are some things happening now. The studios are beginning to retreat. Is that opening up more space? Going back to what Ava's saying, is there more space now for excellence? Is there more space now to create an intervention in that distribution landscape, do you think, for the independents?
Yeah. Well, first I want to say, having visionary leadership, I think I saw this. What you're seeing on this screen, I saw this, and I saw, what Array could be and what Array is through Ava's vision. And if we can make everything happen and make everything possible that she can come up with, we will be definitely a better industry for it, a better world for it as well. But as far as distribution, I think it is opening up, especially with the pandemic. I think it's teaching us to actually think outside of the system and find different ways to be able to distribute films, distribute art, distribute, our entertainment work. And I think it's a good thing. I think it's exciting. I think it is allowing the landscape to open for independent spaces. And it's also showing the studios, how important different types of work is for our industry, not just financially, but mentally. We're all kind of in our own homes, consuming tons of media via television, via streaming, via news, via social media. And so I think that we are on a cusp of major change, and we're all just trying to grab it, hold on to it, and make sure that it's moving forward, especially for distribution of all this work that's coming out during this time.
Can you tell us a bit then about how you've weathered this year, how Array has weathered this year in terms of this COVID year? And you talk about some of the kind of new thinking that you're having as a response to that. Can you tell us a bit more about that?
Yeah, before the pandemic happened and before COVID, our crown jewel was Array Campus and the Amanda Cinema. We were, gathering together, programming, having the community be a part of really what Array has done. And so we've just really had to transfer that to having conversations online, really using a lot of social media as far as IG live chats, releasing films like Lingua Franca and Residue through theatrical, online, virtual theaters, trying to support art house theaters as well during this time. And then, of course, I think, what's unique about Array Releasing and our distribution platform is that we have had a long relationship with Netflix. Knowing how important it is for independent filmmakers and independent films to be able to be seen around the world. And really busting the myth that we can't travel, our work doesn't travel. And so just really amplifying that, we've gone from initially distributing 2 films per year when we first started to now distributing 6 films a year, and continuing to do that for years to come, I think is, really what we've done as far as Array Releasing and distribution.
And what's interesting about the kind of films that you are bringing to the US? So I'm very interested in your intervention, Array's intervention, bringing the global world to America, which has often been quite hard in terms of foreign language films and films from the continent, from Africa, from the Caribbean. What are you discovering in that space in terms of opening up to, if you think about Just trying to think, the Ghanaian filmmaker, Blitz's film, for example. What are you discovering about audiences' tastes with regards, the appetite for this work?
I think it's been a slow build from the very beginning of starting Array as AFIRM, the African American Film Festival Releasing Movement. Ava's vision was always that we would acquire and distribute these types of films, and at the same time educating audiences. I think that is where the barrier is. It's not that people don't want to see it. It's not that it's not good work. I think it's just accessibility. If you're living in Compton and there's no movie theater there to show you films with subtitles, how are you supposed to be exposed to that? And that has always been the vision of Array and AFIRM, is to, distribute these types of films like Burial of Kojo, like Burning Cane, Lingua Franca, which is a trans filmmaker, Residue, all these films, we've always, throughout this 10 years, 11 years, have wanted to create that space to be able to allow people and audiences to see these types of films and to show them and teach them how to watch them as well. And so that's a lot of what Array Alliance does as far as education and creating programs so that people can consume this type of artwork.
That's great, thank you. Sarah, let's come over to the production side and the newest member of the Array family. So Array Filmworks has grown, so it's producing Ava's work, but also producing other people's work as well. So I'd love to hear your kind of vision for that and how you're shaping that at the moment. So, what are you excited about that you've come into and that you're working with, and who you're working with? What kind of projects are exciting you at the moment?
Oh gosh, where to begin? There's so much that's exciting, some of which has not yet been announced and I can't share, and some of which I can. I will say, walking into Array, even virtually, and without having been able to be at the campus with everybody, it has been an incredible experience just to immediately access such a dynamic, creative environment, even beyond the sort of film and TV work that's going on at the company. But just to hear Tulane and Mercedes and Regina speak to all of the work that they're doing, it really does feel like a collective, and that energy is infectious, even over Zoom somehow. So I'll just throw out, one of the things that's on my mind, particularly this week, that is incredibly exciting, is a show of ours that we do have with Netflix. So my old colleagues are still close in some ways. It's called Colin in Black and White, and focuses on the teenage years of Colin Kaepernick. It's an incredible show. The scripts are beautiful, and it's just something that feels so timely and needed in this moment. And it's something that I'm very passionate about and feel privileged to be able to work on with this team. So that's something that sort of feels immediately exciting. But I will say, Paul is in Louisiana right now holding down Queen Sugar, and it's something that has been pretty exciting to sort of see a show that I've been a fan of for years as a viewer come back to life in COVID with such renewed creative meaning, I think, and will have real impact for people. So I think that's something that really has resonated for me. And to turn to your question about, the mission at FilmWorks, it's really an extension of what you've heard Ava and Tulane speak to already. It's about broadening the lens. It's about centering stories that have not previously been centered, and finding characters who have, previously been in the edge of the frame or have been supporting, and making them our leads and our heroes. And, hopefully broadening the representation and capacity of what that hero can become. I think that's really central to Array Filmworks across every format that we can find to sort of make inroads in. And it's something that's wildly inspiring and pretty fun.
So tell us about the commissioning process. How are you actively looking for projects? Are you tracking talent? What's the Array Way approach, I guess?
Yeah, I mean, all of the above. Look, we're very lucky to have, or I will say I'm very lucky to step into an environment where there's an incredible creative family that's already been built over the years. And I think that will hopefully continue to grow. Of course, we wouldn't be doing our jobs if we weren't aggressively tracking talent, both in television and film, scripted and unscripted, and into docs. At the same time, as we always look for scripts and new material, we have a lot that is that's keeping us busy. So I think increasingly it will be sort of, what's the special idea? How are we saying something that we have not yet said as a company and as part of this collective? How are we moving the story forward? And I think those are the ideas that we'll probably really push to jump into as we continue to build the slate.
And Ava, just bringing you in very quickly here, you made the move from independent film into television. So both as a director and as a producer. And what was that transition like for you? And I guess how exciting does it feel as a creative, as someone who's writing and making work?
Thank you. It's the most exciting platform right now to me, period. And so early on, coming off of Selma and A Wrinkle in Time, folks saying, oh, okay, 13th, you're going to put it on Netflix. You're going to continue to make things with Netflix. Are you going to do more TV? I remember after Selma, someone telling me, oh, don't do Queen Sugar. You need to keep going in film. Like, film's going this way and TV's just down here. Well, we know now. I mean, that's crazy. Now it's all the same thing. It's story. Its story is king. And whether it's in a podcast, it's a doc, it's a narrative feature, it's a doc series, it's a feature series, it's ongoing, it's limited, it's a short, like, it's all available to you. And we're doing it all, right? I mean, we ask the story what it wants to be. We're trying to look at the story and figure out what is the best way to tell the story, because aren't we fortunate? We're at a time where we can use all the tools. We can use whatever format is best to serve that story to reach the right audience. And so I think I felt early in the move from film to TV, because I remember feeling pressure and people doubting that would work. And now, it's Genius Day. We're geniuses. It was the right move. It was Cary Fukunaga. It was Cary Fukunaga doing his film, doing True Detective. He was the first filmmaker from that indie prestige, indie auteur world who went and make that, who I was paying attention to, who I thought, oh, wow, this first season of True Detective is really good. Then I saw Fincher doing House of Cards at Netflix, and I thought, are any women or Black people gonna get in this? Because, hey, maybe it'll be me. And we start working in film and we start seeing this limited format, this prestige TV. It hasn't even been 5 years and the thing has exploded. And now you have Meryl Streep's doing TV. I mean, it's Robert De Niro. Everybody's doing everything because now the story is king. So we're excited about it. We have so many things brewing across all the platforms. It's really exciting.
I'd love to hear more about that cross-platform. One of the things that London Film Festival this year are really looking at is the way in which, I mean, you call FilmWorks a content creation company. So this concept that content could be anything, right? The form could be anything. So how broad might you go? There's theatre, there's companies moving into theatre and live work, and is that something that interests you, or?
This is the second time today I've been asked about theatre. That's probably going to be the last frontier for old Ava. Okay. Just because I like a camera, Gayleen, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. I like a camera on my shoulder. Yeah. But maybe Sarah can speak to some of the different, maybe just give them a little bit of unscripted, just tell them a little bit of the different ways. I mean, one of the things, Gayleen, that's been so interesting, Paul and I have worked together forever, and we are camera people. We love an actor, a set, a good production design, some good craft services, shooting, action, and cut. And we found ourselves in these other areas where we're shooting, we're prepping for the first time a non-scripted show, which is a whole new thing for us to think about. Wait, we're going to shoot and we don't know what's going to happen? How's that going to work? These people, we can't tell them exactly what to do. How does the director even... I'm feeling discombobulated, and it's fantastic. So we're doing a non-scripted, we're doing podcasts. Maybe Sarah will give you a little taste.
Yeah, so one of the shows that Ava's referring to is a show we have called Home Sweet Home, which is with NBC, and it's a primetime social experiment. And it is something that I think hopefully, we always joke internally that it's a little bit of protein wrapped in a Snickers bar. It's a social experiment. It's a cultural sort of two families switching lives for a week, switching homes, switching environments, and having to sort of walk a mile in another person's shoes for a week before you ultimately meet them. And I think the idea is that this can be wildly entertaining and take us all as storytellers out of our comfort zones in the same way that our subjects will be experiencing that. And who knows what comes from it, but it's going to be an adventure, and maybe it'll surprise you and teach you a little something at the same time. And I think, to Ava's point, story is king. We're really coming up with ideas and listening as collaborators of ours come to us with ideas, and then letting the idea tell us which format it really does belong in. So whether it is unscripted television or even looking into podcasts and other types of formats, it does feel like I think part of the Array ethos is the sort of repeat business of having collaborators who've worked with us in one format hopefully want to come back and continue to stretch themselves and to bring us something that might, take an episodic director from Queen Sugar and bring them into feature development, writing a screenplay for us to produce, or take someone who originally comes to us with a TV concept and realize that actually it really lends itself to an auditory podcast driven experience. And we're really trying to be open and malleable in the way that we're structured and in the way that we react to what comes through the door.
What you mentioned, Gayleen, about the Ghanaian filmmaker. So let me just give you an example before you move on. This Ghanaian filmmaker, Blitz Bazawale, is found by Tulane Jones in Array Releasing. And his film Burial of Kojo was released last year to great acclaim, critical acclaim. Incredible. People were like, where'd you get this film? But we looked at film festivals that you're not looking at, Black film festivals, film festivals on the continent that the rest of our industry isn't looking at. She finds this film, it's a jewel, everyone's raving about it. And this filmmaker then goes on, he gets tapped by Beyonce. He's one of the filmmakers behind Black is King. From there, but even before that, we move him over. He works with Paul and me on Me and Paul. Me and Paul. He works with us on an Array Filmworks show that we had on the Oprah Winfrey Network, Cherish the Day. We gave him his first episode of television. So he directs 2 episodes of Cherish the Day with Paul producing. So that's Array Filmworks. So he moves from releasing to Filmworks. Then he gets this Beyonce thing. Then I get a call from Oprah who's saying, I'm looking for someone to do this Color Purple musical. I'm like, Color Purple musical? Color Purple musical. Well, I'm looking for young filmmakers, and okay, Color Purple musical. Cut to Blitz Bazawale is the director of the Warner Brothers, produced by Steven Spielberg and Oprah Winfrey, Color Purple the musical. Wow. That goes directly tracked from someone having to look beyond what the agencies and the same old festivals were saying. Someone, Tulane Jones, who saw this film at a festival that nobody was checking for, and then someone else, Paul Garntz, giving him the chance to direct episodes, and now he's ready to make that film. And so we've got to do that. We've got to do that for each other. We've got to get past the same old folk and go deeper. And that's one of our favorite examples.
So here's one of my unscripted questions, which is I was thinking, had it in the back of my mind, and I'm definitely going to bring it to the front. So thinking about potential expanding in other areas you might want to tread into. How about the area of being an agent, of having an agent arm? Because given the fact there's been so much debate around the role of agents.
Aileen, whose eyes just got big? A woman named Regina Miller. Because Regina Miller has been saying, Ava, maybe we should do a management company. Ava, maybe we should do it. I said, Regina, we have 99 divisions already. Ava, we have to disrupt. She is the most disruptive source. Tulane and I sometimes are like, Regina, why are you just so disruptive? But that's something that we've talked about. Probably not. I'm resisting, but Gayleen, I see that you're on the Regina team, Team Regina. So we'll see.
I see where you're coming from. I can see where you're coming from with this. All right. So Paul, let's come to you, because I think you have, in terms of the Array way. So Sarah spoke gave us a really great picture of the kind of content and the kind of work we were attracted to and the kind of stories. But there was also a kind of a approach to production, to making the films, that is really central to the Array ethos. So can you speak to that a little bit about what that looks like? And I guess using the Queen Sugar as a great example, you're actually on set as we speak, which is amazing. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. It's, it's interesting as you look at, Ava mentioned some of those early productions, and, those were productions that we were doing without any connections to anybody, without any leverage to be able to pull off shows. I often think of when we were doing Middle of Nowhere, and Ava was adamant, even before we shot it, she's like, hey, this is going to Sundance. And I would take that and I would go with the DP, who was Bradford Young, and we'd go down to the camera house and we'd try to talk some amazing deal. Like, we need a camera equipment for this show. We're going to Sundance. And they would be like, who are you again? And Bradford, Ava, Paul, like, it means nothing to us. But what that did, that put us in a position where, as isolated as it is not to have the support of like the industry at large, of people rooting for you to get it done or helping you in any meaningful way, what that did was it taught us how to get things done. It taught us, how to depend on each other, how to creatively not compromise a project because of your lack of funds or resources. How do we pull this off in the same way we would have if we had all those things? And back then, there was no safety net. There was no one to call. There was nobody who was going to come help us. It was just us. It was just, let's get it done. We have to get this shot done. We have to get this location. What happens if your location falls through? We worked through all those things, and we worked through that, understanding who our crew was, being respectful to our crew, and finding, sometimes a more diverse crew than other people had, not just because we were comfortable with the fact that we wanted it to look like the world that we live in, but a lot of times that crew is marginalized and they didn't get the opportunities to go work on those shows or have that lead position. You can take somebody who's been a grip for so many years and should have been a key grip by now, and we were in a position where like, hey, come do our show. We can make you the key grip. After we got done with that experiment, that turned into like, let's do another show and another show. Up comes Array, and we realized that part of that process isn't just, buying into the 100-year-old industry of, hey, this is how it's done, this is how you do it, here's who's supposed to do it. We brought all those experiences when we didn't have any of that support, when we didn't have that understanding, and said, that worked for us then, it can work for us now. And I think that has led to something like Queen Sugar, where we have an extremely diverse crew. Ava has invited women to come be directors who have done everything they should have done to become a director. We have now a vehicle, an opportunity where it's like, it's a safe place for you to come and be a director. No one's going to think less of you because you're a director. Right now, I don't know if I can mention.
Tell them, it's so exciting.
I don't know. I feel like this is one of those things that I can't say it has ever happened before. And it's tough to ever say it's a first time. But we are today, actually.
Day one.
We rolled on a director who started with us in 2016 as a PA. And she has worked her way up through different ways. Ava even challenged her outside of the show to say, hey, you need to go and do this. If you want to have a chance at some point, never telling her that she was going to get this opportunity. But if you want to be a director, you need to do this. You need to have these experiences. Now, all of a sudden, in 2020, during COVID, during the most, crisis-ridden time in the entertainment industry history, we were able to give an opportunity to a woman who deserves an opportunity to be a director.
Wow.
She called action today for the first time on a set on Warner Brothers, Oprah Winfrey Network, Array Production. And, and that's one of the many stories of folks that we bring in and we try to keep. And that Array way is really innovated by Paul. It is, we believe in you. If you believe in us, we'll stick together. We will hire you again if you give it your all. And so these sets really become familial. I mean, Paul and I were talking with Sarah about how we're going to crew up the Collins show, which is going to start prep in a couple of weeks. And all the people we're naming are you know, folks that we've worked with before who we're asking to bring in new people, because it's always about expanding. We don't want to fall into that whole rut of, well, you only work with the people that you worked with before. Every time we're hiring something, we're asking them, who else do you know? How do you have more people? Let's get more. Well, you do this show, but let's think of, we have 3 other shows. Let's get more in. And so the more that we can expand that, that's really our vision for Array. And you know, I really just want to, I know nothing about production. Paul's taught me everything I know about how to produce something, and how to translate being on set to people who have never been on set, people who've been overlooked on set. You know, working with him as a producer has helped me be a better director, a better writer. A lot of times writers just be writing stuff and you're like, you can't make this. There can't be a spaceship in the middle of the backyard. How are we gonna make this? Where do you think there's no, they can't swim to the da-da-da. And you're like, oh, okay, let me retype that so it's possible. And so we've learned a lot from each other, and, you know, Array Filmworks is, you know, an engine that's really running in overdrive right now. We're excited.
And so tell us, Paul, you mentioned earlier, and Ava, both of you mentioned about the fact that this very novel for the industry attempt to constantly refresh crews, constantly look for those people who aren't normally on set to do that work. You said that there's a way in which you're helping to frame that, to offer out as tools or advice, or, you know, the Array way as an opportunity for other people. So can you speak a bit more to that, and if there's anything you can, share?
Yeah, I think Regina Miller can give an overview, a very non-announcing, non-giving away too much, don't tell all our secrets at London Film Festival overview of a resource that we have coming up that we're going to be launching in the fall. She can just speak to it in broad strokes. The funny thing about this, Kayleen, is that within our company, this platform falls under Array Alliance, so it's under Regina's purview, but the lead manager of it is a woman named Tammy, wait for it, Garnes, Paul's wife. See, we're trying to bring in, it's a family effort. So I said to Paul, wow, your wife is brilliant. I mean, I know her for a long time. Hey, Tammy's gonna head up this division. We like giving jobs, right? We like to bring in all the brilliant people, no matter who they are. And she was a former head of communications at the Atlanta School District, and now she's leading up our education program. She's leading up this platform, and so it's very exciting. Anyway, and they're Array's first married couple. They are the first family of Array, the Garneses.
I hope you got married on set. That's all
you did?
No, I hope Tammy and Paul got married on set.
We met in a film production. We didn't get married on set, but we got married in Cambridge, believe it or not.
Oh, okay.
Oh, little British connection.
Come
on, give us our. But Regina, can you give them a little preview?
Absolutely. Well, Ava had a vision, and also what you'll find out about Array Alliance is that it's so mission vision led, and it's also based in real life disruption and putting new tools, new resources into play. So why we were smiling when you said, let's start an agency, the last thing I think Ava thought she was going to start was a tech company. But we basically realized that, again, we didn't want to just put this resource into a square. We needed to build it from scratch. So we spent a lot of time trying to find a person of color run tech company so that it would be built with the right intention by the right people from the inception. And we found this wonderful woman, has a company in Colombia. And we really worked by giving her the architecture of the vision, which was never again should there be an excuse that you couldn't find a woman or a person of color to do this or that job in crewing up, in makeup, in costume, in carrying wires, in scenic painting, in all of the beautiful jobs below the line. And not only did we then build this, this technology tool, a platform, both in web-based and app, but we also created the IP around it so that it would be very intuitive for a hiring manager to use, and also keep it simple. It's not, the groundbreaking idea is in its simplicity, is that we want to just give resources to people that say, well, I would have, I think we really believe most people have the right intent from their heart. We just need to give them the resources and the tools. And so what we've done over the past year is really work Tammy's done this gorgeous job curating, hand curating, finding crew members from all these different lists that exist around the entertainment industry, and giving everybody a page because we want them to be hired and we want to give everybody that chance. So I'm going to pause here because we are announcing this later in the fall, so you are the first to get a little glimpse. So I have to be careful not to over talk about it, but what is most exciting is that it's a simple idea, and we've put the technology behind it, and we are saying we're not a tech company, but we were able to find the resources, and we're going to build this together. And we've brought really smart people on to help guide us through, and now we're asking the industry to work with us to be able to grow this and make it as successful as possible so that everybody can have the kinds of crews that Ava and Paul and Sarah create for Array Filmworks.
It's really, really, really powerful. I mean, one of the conversations, the big conversation right now in the UK, I think, you know, elsewhere, Steve McQueen just recently, when he was shooting, he was like, you know, you walk on set and this does not look like the film that I'm making, right? In terms of who's actually working in to make that film. So it's one of the biggest conversations that we have at the moment in the UK. So this is going to be, you know, glad that we got a little sneak peek, but I think this will be, you know, it's a game-changing kind of concept and idea in terms of that. So Regina, tell us a bit more about what other things that you're doing. So it sounds as if like the kind of great ideas and energy that Array generates then kind of gets handed to you to put out into the world in order to make a difference broader and beyond. So tell us a bit about the mission, the vision and the mission of the Alliance arm of Array.
Well, you know, I've been a nonprofit for 20 years, and I was blessed enough, really it is a blessing, that I met Ava 3 years ago because of a gentleman named Darren Walker, who's the head of the Ford Foundation. And Darren kept hearing Ava talk about her big ideas and her vision. But yet again, when you hear Ava talk about the social justice work that she's doing, it makes sense. We hear all these phrases, narrative change. What does that mean? And Ava has distilled it down to its audiences, artists, and advocates. And by those three areas, we are looking to disrupt the systems and put new systems in place. And I love what Ava talked about earlier about mediocrity. There's in nonprofit, I think there has been challenges of staying in these very square boxes of just, you know, these rules and regulations. And how do you stay respectful to those rules and regulations, but really expand, because the vision and the change has to be bigger and better. And so Ava has really challenged us to look at that and how do we do it. And so by having really strong strategy, we have an extraordinary board. We built it step by step to be able to put the infrastructure in place and then really stay focused and disciplined, because I do think there's something incredible about this nonprofit being run by a director. We understand the budget, we understand the story, we understand the vision. We are also trying to keep shifting and going and changing as we learn. I think that we've been more innovative during COVID than I could have ever imagined. And that's because of the leadership and staying really clear on brand and discipline to keep the work going. It's more important than ever. So having that, and then just this amazing team that has grown from, you know, the 3 to over 20 now, that are 100% focused and committed to where they have to go. So it's just a really exciting nonprofit. We have a strong infrastructure board. You know, Ava hates to ask for money, so part of nonprofit is fundraising. And I said, you don't have to ask for money. Just tell me your dream, your vision. That the money will come, because people are starving to make smart investments, and they want to invest in strong ideas and leadership, and then they want to be held, they want to see the accountability piece. So we show it. You know, we talked about Mercedes can really talk to programs beautifully, but you know, during COVID, should we do everything online? Well, let's explore everything that we can do online in education, in community gathering. And then Mercedes was like, we're going to reinvent the drive-in. We're going to have these incredible community activations. And not only are we going to do the drive-in, but the election is coming up. Let's vote. Let's make our drive-in tied into voting. So I don't want to take away from Mercedes to kind of share about the innovation and programming, but everything we do is so clear and intent with, like, Tulane has a movie to distribute, phenomenal. Let's lift it up and let's do a campaign, and let's see how we can use our nonprofit status to get on billboards on top of lifts and taxis, so that people see our films and then they wonder, oh, let's go to Netflix and watch this. And what are the smart campaigns and the conversations? So all of this exists. And then Tammy also then created these beautiful study guides, which we don't even call study guides. They're more learning companions, because we don't want to box ourselves into core standards and the curriculum that has really lacked innovation. Instead, let's create smart curriculum. Let's take When They See Us and create a math class using New York City data, police data, and let the students really learn about media bias. So we take all of these pieces and we then put it into this very, very effective programming, and it's then driven by the whole team, and we work as a real collaborative, which I think is just beautiful.
Wonderful. Oh, it's got shivers. Mercedes, this is a really lovely segue to yourself in terms of, so yeah, tell us about your kind of range of interventions, I guess, in Array, and a little bit about the Creative Campus and the cinema there, but also I'd be very interested to hear what Regina's speaking about you know, these other ideas that you bring forth.
My time at Array has been a beautiful journey. I started 9 years ago, and when I came in, Ava and her editor, longtime editor, were in, I would say, a closet-like room. It was a room, but it was a closet-like room, editing middle of nowhere in prep for Sundance. So that's where my journey started, and it's just been the most beautiful thing to see the evolution just in 9 years or 10 years of the company, and all the things that are coming. And so starting with releasing and being kind of that being sort of the central focus of the collective for many, many years, where, you know, we've used this word disrupt the releasing format, the acquisition and the releasing format. The next step, you know, for Ava naturally was to have our own space truly where we could show anything we want, anytime we want, to not ask permission for anything from anybody. And so in a matter of months last year, Amanda Cinema was built on our creative campus, like literally in a matter of months. And that was beautiful to walk into, I mean, this plush theater in the heart of historic Filipino town, which is an area in Los Angeles, with these gorgeous turquoise seats and these golden drapes around you, but for the community, because we have gorgeous screening spaces all throughout Los Angeles, but quite frankly, they're for the elite, right? They're for the chosen few who can afford to be on a guild or afford to have a membership at a special club. And so it was just lovely to see that concept, that vision applied by Ava to a space that is open to the community for them to come and watch films with us. So that's kind of where I've been working on. And last fall we launched our inaugural Array 360 film series. This is kind of a painful week because this would have been the week, the second year of it that it started back up. But
tell them about some of the films you programmed, Mercedes.
25 feature films, 5 short form films. And so everything ranging from John Singleton, 8 of his 9 feature films for a marathon screening, to a spotlight screening with Michael Mann and showing his film Collateral in conversation with Ava too. And if you know John Singleton's name, you should know the films of Jabril Diop Mabedi and his film showing Hyenas, and then comparing that with his niece's film Atlantique, which was sort of the hot buy last year by Netflix, but then also showing the first and the last works of Agnes Varda, who was the godmother of the French New Wave, and her name is not spoken enough as sort of the start of that movement. But then also smaller films by some Garrett Bradley, who just did a beautiful first feature, going back and looking at one of her shorts that she did. And comparing that to an established filmmaker like Shirin Neshat, who works a lot with Iranian based and focused photography and story. So it was just a lot in there, but I will say it wasn't a stretch for us. It was really quite authentic and natural, the way those films were chosen and fell in line, because they were all films that we love. If you know Ava DuVernay's films, you got to know Ooze on Palsy, and you got to know films by Kathleen Collins, right? And we're going to show them to you if you don't. And so, because at Array, inclusivity, we see a lot of organizations who have that as sort of a department or an initiative. It's not an initiative for us. It's just part of who we are. We love films. We love films of all types from all over the world. And we want to, bring everybody who's been at the edge of that to the center, and really share and have all the different filmmakers be in conversation with one another.
I mean, it was, it's definitely, for someone who, was running the program of the big rep cinema in the UK, seeing that program it felt very radical as a kind of an intervention, especially in LA, the home of Hollywood, even to have, foreign language films, let alone films that are 60 years old and that have this kind of international reach. So what have you discovered? What did you discover, I guess, through that program in terms of audiences' taste? Because this is really what it's all about. This is the nub of everything, is what do people want? Mm-hmm. So what did you discover?
It goes back to what Selene was saying, is we've been working in this kind of realm of just choosing films that we love, choosing films that we love, and then educating other people on why they should watch them. So, excuse me, if you take one of our first releases, Andrew Dosimo's Restless City, which is lush and vivid. I think that was like our 3rd release. And contrast that to what we're doing now. It's the same thing. We're just choosing films that we love, whether they have subtitles or not. We programmed a whole day, I forgot to mention, of Filipinx-oriented film. And that was like one of the most beautiful weekends, because it was 4 films back to back, classic and new, kind of the new generation of Filipinx filmmakers. And just to see the range of the audience, different ethnicities, all age groups, a young woman bringing her grandmother to see these classic Filipino films, gender diversity. Really, it just showed us that people just want to watch good things. They just want to watch good things. That's all. They just don't want to waste their time. And then the one thing that I really love about the way we program films is that it's free. we make it free and accessible thanks to the generous, work done by Regina to get us funds to cover it. But that way it's no risk, right? It's no risk to get that ticket, and you can come and discover films that you may not have watched before. And then maybe that makes you a little stronger and wiser about making choices in the future and saying, oh, well, I see this on Netflix now. I'm going to give it a chance.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Beautiful. Honestly, I could go around again. And do all this over again, but unfortunately we can't. We're running out of time. But Ava, I want to come back to you. You mentioned at the beginning that when you see this group of people in front of you, it's a surprise. You hadn't had that vision necessarily at the beginning. And it does seem that the success of Array has been its ability to remain responsive to the moment and turn the blocks facing the marginalized into stepping stones. Mm-hmm. So when you horizon scan, when you're looking forward, have you got a sense of what you might be sharpening your blade to tackle?
Well, I just have to thank you and the London Film Festival for just the space for this. I mean, this is the first time that this group has been together on a stage. Okay. And just to see and hear it all, we do our staff meetings that don't look much different from this, but, it's got 20 more people, and just to hear it presented to folks that have never heard it before, I'm proud of it, and I'm proud of each of them and the part that they play. And, steel sharpens steel. We're sharpening each other. And what Tulane has brought through her leadership, what Mercedes has brought to programming, what Paul is innovating on sets, what Sarah is doing to establish Array in spaces that we've never been within our industry, and what Regina does to, just keep us all moving forward, both in vision and in practice. Like these people, to say, I know where we're going or how we're going to do it is to, I think, disengage from the adventure and curiosity, the imagination and the possibility of what can be. And so, yes, we have structure, and yes, we strive for excellence in everything that we do, right? Every I is dotted and every T is crossed, right? And that's come from the old adage that, as Black people, I was taught by my mother and father, you're gonna have to be better. You're gonna have to be more buttoned down. And so whether that's positive or negative, that's the way that we work, where we're just trying to reach excellence in everything that we do, but within that, to allow for a sense of, flexibility, discovery, to be water. Water is so strong. Water can drown, water can build, water can destroy, water can give life, and water can move. And so we're just trying to be water. We're trying to be powerful through this industry, but also be able to create waves and just, get into the nooks and crannies of it all. So yeah, I don't know the answer to your question. I don't know what we're going to do next. But I know that we're going to sharpen each other as we go. And it's just a real privilege to be on the journey with these people.
And the final question, even though it doesn't feel this way, we are currently speaking to a disembodied but very present and alert industry here, international industry here. So what might we leave them with? What instruction, advice, suggestion, Ava, might you leave them with?
It's tough times, and folks are, there's a lot of despair, there's a lot of chaos, but I'm embracing a word that, is a hybrid of two emotions. One emotion is anxious. Everyone's feeling a little anxious about what will happen and how we'll move forward. The other word is hope, and to remain hopeful and open to what can happen. And when you put those together, it's eager, right? It's eager. You're a little anxious, but you're hopeful. And that's how I would describe me in this moment. And that's how I would describe Array. We're on the edge of something and we don't know what it'll be. I'm not afraid to look over and figure out what it is. I'm eager to see and to figure out our space in it. And I think for me, it's accepting that idea of being eager, which has a bit of uncertainty to it, but I'm leaning into it. You know what I mean? I'm eager to know how I want to figure this out, eager about all that's possible, eager to leave some things behind. And, just really staying in a place that It's not unrealistic to have hope, but to also be anxious. Both of those things are present, but to embrace them and to make them into something that is propulsive, that moves us forward. And so that's our word for the day, Gayleen. And you know, hopefully that gives some folks out there something to think about.
I think it's a wonderful place to rest, because I think we've been hearing a lot about anxiety this year, particularly. There's lots of things changing, and that's to do with you know, acts of God, but also to do with change that's needed to take place. Mm-hmm. And that can make people very anxious. But that I really loved that sense of, but the potential, the possibility that's in that change is phenomenal. And I think talking to you guys tonight has absolutely reminded me of that. And the work of Array is absolutely a beacon, I think, in what an eager, positive, forward motion career can look like. So I have to thank all of you, Regina, Sarah, Telaine, Mercedes, Paul, and most of all you, Ava, for creating this space and inviting us into it. So
well, thank you. And we hope that whenever anyone who is watching this is in LA, when everything is back to normal, come visit us at the campus, see a movie at the Amanda, come hang out and say hello. You know, and just thank you for this conversation today. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.